Weather News Bullet to all our viewers following this weather news report. In today's broadcast, we'll walk through a meteorological picture full of surprises, stretching from the Atlantic to the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. Before returning to the U.S. mainland, where communities along the I-95 corridor are bracing for the risk of dangerous storms this afternoon and evening, we will analyze in detail each factor. Why a tropical wave once highly anticipated, Invest 91L, unexpectedly, ran out of steam. What new signals are emerging in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico that may lead to a low-pressure system in the coming days? And finally, what residents in the northeastern United States need to prepare for as they face the risk of severe thunderstorms, damaging winds, and even short-lived tornadoes today? Ladies and gentlemen, weather is never a fixed script. It is like a grand play. And every day the atmosphere, as the director, may change the storyline. Even the most experienced experts are sometimes caught off guard, and Invest 91L is a perfect example. For days, both the global meteorological community and those following the Atlantic hurricane season watched this tropical wave with the expectation that it would quickly organize into a tropical depression, even earning the name Gabrielle. Forecast models, including the most reliable tools, suggested the odds were very high. At one point, the U.S. National Hurricane Center, NHC, gave a 90% chance of development. With a probability that high, most of us believed formation was almost certain. Yet reality told a different story. 91L has remained nothing more than a disorganized cluster of thunderstorms, unable to consolidate into a lasting circulation. Let us examine why. The first factor is mid-level moisture. To form a tropical cyclone, beyond warm sea surfaces, the mid-troposphere must hold sufficient humidity to sustain convection. In recent days, however, dry air from the Sahara and the North Atlantic intruded, eroding developing storm clouds almost as soon as they appeared. Next came vertical wind shear. Just a few meters per second of increased shear at altitudes of 3 to 6 kilometers is enough to lop off the tops of rising thunderstorm towers. A third factor was insufficient surface convergence. While there was an open low-level swirl, it never tightened into a closed center. The result? 91L kept struggling, brief bursts of convection that flared for a few hours, then fizzled, never gathering enough strength to stand as an independent storm system. This reminds us that forecasting is always a game of probabilities. Even with supercomputers and advanced models, nature has the final word. In the case of 91L, nature simply said, no, that is not a failure, but rather a demonstration of the atmosphere's complexity. So, what lies ahead for 91L? Given its current structure, the most likely scenario is that its remaining energy will drift north-northeast, pass offshore near Bermuda, and gradually dissipate in the Atlantic without direct land impacts. At best, a weak, short-lived vortex could survive before being swept away by upper-level winds. In other words, 91L is almost certainly no longer a major threat. But the story does not end here. Behind 91L, forecast models are consistently calling out one or two new tropical waves set to depart the African coast between September 10 and 14. This period marks the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. The main development region currently holds all the right ingredients: sea surface temperatures above average, atmospheric humidity on the rise, and wind shear projected to relax in the coming week. Together, these create fertile ground for new systems to become tropical depressions and storms. The difference between the two potential waves lies in their tracks. The leading wave may climb to higher latitudes, where stronger westerlies would steer it out to open waters. The trailing wave, however, looks more likely to stay at lower latitudes, where moisture is richer and shear weaker, giving it greater potential for robust development. Should that scenario unfold, it could become the main feature to watch in the latter half of September. While it's too early to specify strength or path, the message is clear. Hurricane season is far from over. In fact, it is entering its peak. Closer to land, the Gulf of Mexico and the Western Caribbean are beginning to show signs of moisture buildup. Column humidity maps reveal dense clouds pooling across the northern Gulf, where a weak surface trough is interacting with drier continental air. This contrast forms a convergence zone where thunderstorms can persist and grow. In the Western Caribbean, a familiar September phenomenon called the Central American gyre sometimes develops. It is a large, broad circulation, not necessarily a storm itself, but a cradle where smaller lows can form. If these lows find favorable conditions, warm water and weak shear, they can intensify into tropical storms. Long-range model signals suggest such a gyre could emerge between September 12 and 16. If true, this would be an area warranting close attention for residents along the Gulf Coast from Texas to the Florida Panhandle. Immediate impacts may not be obvious yet, but it is wise to prepare for several days of heavy rainfall by late next week or early the following week. Even without a major storm, prolonged downpours could cause localized flooding, especially in coastal cities already prone to drainage issues. In many cases, the damage from floodwaters is more disruptive than the winds of a storm. Now, let us return to the U.S. mainland, where today's most immediate threat is unfolding. Dangerous thunderstorms are forecast along the I-95 corridor, from the mid-Atlantic up through New England. The setup is clear. A passing trough is interacting with hot, humid air surging northward from the Atlantic on southwesterly winds. As daytime heating builds, the unstable atmosphere is primed, ready to ignite when triggered. Forecast radar simulations show storms initiating around midday in Virginia and Maryland, then rapidly intensifying as they push north through Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New Jersey, and into the New York metro area. The highest risk window is between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. Depending on location, during this period, the greatest hazards are damaging wind gusts over 55 to 60 miles per hour, strong enough to snap trees, damage roofs, and topple billboards. Large hailstones of 1 to 1.5 inches, 2 to 3 centimeters, may also fall in isolated spots, posing danger to people and vehicles outdoors. Particularly concerning is the chance of brief tornadoes in areas like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and the lower Hudson Valley. These are typically small, short-lived twisters, but their localized damage can be severe. Residents are urged to follow safety basics, have multiple ways to receive alerts, avoid parking in flood-prone low spots, seek sturdy shelter as storms approach, and if a tornado warning is issued, move to the lowest level of your home, into an interior room, away from windows and exterior walls. These simple rules have proven life-saving in emergencies. After 9 p.m., most storms should weaken as temperatures drop, but showers and thunder may persist past midnight, especially across New England. Flash flooding remains possible in urban centers like New York City, Long Island, and Philadelphia, since just 30 to 60 minutes of intense rain can overwhelm drainage systems. The lesson from 91L also carries broader meaning. Tropical cyclone forecasting is inherently uncertain. When a system given a 90% chance of development ultimately dissipates, it shows no tool can guarantee 100%. Rather than disappointment, we should see this as an opportunity to better understand how the atmosphere behaves. And because of this uncertainty, staying vigilant and following official updates remain essential. Looking ahead 7 to 10 days, the overall U.S. forecast is as follows. Through this weekend and into early next week, lingering cool air will keep the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast below normal. By midweek, however, a strong high-pressure system will build, drawing warmth northward and bringing the Great Plains, Midwest, and Ohio Valley back into above normal heat. Many places may reach 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 to 35 degrees Celsius, with some topping 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 to 38 degrees Celsius, by late week. This will feel like a second summer in the middle of September. Meanwhile, the Gulf Coast will contend with increasing rain and storms. Especially late next week, the Western Caribbean could spawn a broad gyre, while across the Atlantic, fresh waves emerging from Africa will be the biggest wildcards for late September. In summary, in the short term, the clearest threat is severe thunderstorms along I-95 this afternoon and evening. In the medium term, Gulf Coast residents should monitor forecasts for prolonged heavy rain. And in the longer term, both the Caribbean and the Atlantic hold the potential for new tropical systems at any time. Thank you for watching today's weather news report. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss the fastest and most accurate updates. Wishing you a safe day and good health. We'll be back with the next bulletin soon.